Hello, and thank you for joining the final Group on Earth Observation Google Program virtual meetup for 2020. And today we're focusing on agriculture and poverty alleviation. I'm Sam Atkinson, General Manager of EO Data Science, and I'll be your host. EO Data Science is an Australian company specialising in operationalising Earth observations. We are fortunate to have an excellent working relationship with the Google Earth Engine team, and we're even more fortunate to be providing support to the GEO-GEE Programme. Our vision for these meetups is for projects focused on similar or overlapping themes to share knowledge, ask questions of each other, and to build professional networks. Now, travel and conferences, of course, are nearly impossible this year due to COVID, but we want to enable as much sharing of ideas and networking as possible. With this objective in mind, the structure of this meetup is like a panel discussion. Each of our projects will present for 5 minutes, followed by questions and answers. Then we will take the opportunity to ask as many questions of the panelists as possible in a moderated conversation. To ask a question, please use the comments box. And please do ask questions and ask them at any time. I will definitely pick them up and ask them of the panelists. It's important that we get your questions are being put to the panelists, not mine. The GEO-GEE Programme has an amazing global reach with projects on every continent. In these meetups, we're celebrating the diversity of objectives, methods, perspectives, and people that you can only get with a global conversation. As we engage in this discussion, it is this diversity that offers us the greatest opportunity to learn and to share knowledge. To enable networking from these events, please look at the speaker and attendee bios that you would have received a link to in the invite to this meetup. If you haven't created your own bio and want to, you still can. There is a bio that you see and you want to talk to that person, please reach out to them. In this meetup, our presenters and panelists are Budiman Minasny from the University of Sydney, presenting on Paddy Watch, mapping and monitoring of paddy fields. Gayane Faye from the Applied Remote Sensing Laboratory at Cheikh Anta Diop University, presenting on Agriproductivity, use of geospatial data for agricultural monitoring in Senegal. Wegayehu Asfaw from Arba Minch University, presenting on urban agricultural intensity monitoring using Google Earth Engine. Mustapha Mimouni from the Sahara and Sahel Observatory, presenting on sustainable management of water for agriculture. Adel Daoud from the University of Gothenburg and Harvard University, presenting on Observatory of Poverty, monitoring progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals using artificial intelligence and satellite images. And Elio Atenógenes Villaseñor Garcia from the National Institute of Statistics and Geography of Mexico, presenting on large-scale, high-resolution detection of vulnerable settlements. We're also pleased to have with us Doug Cripe, who is the Senior Scientific Advisor at GEO, at the Group on Earth Observations, and Noel Gorelick, who is a Senior Engineer at Google and also an Earth Engine co-founder. Noel, would you like to say some words from Google's perspective?
Sure, thanks. As Sam said, I'm Noel Gorelick. I'm one of the co-founders of the Google Earth Engine project. We here at Google are happy we can provide the technical infrastructure for these projects. I'm here as an observer to see if there's common issues or opportunities to improve the backend to try to help unblock any projects that might be having scaling problems with the platform. With that said, I'm looking forward to learn more about the projects. Thanks.
Thanks, Noel. And now let's hear from the Group on Earth Observations and Doug Cripe. Doug, you're just on mute. You're on mute, Doug.
Sorry about that. I couldn't find the unmute. This is only the 5th time I've done this too. So thanks, Sam, for introducing me. And I just wanted to say a few words about the Group on Earth Observations. Some of you may be familiar with it, but others of you may not. So the Group on Earth Observations is a global partnership of governments and organizations envisioning a future wherein decisions and actions for the benefit of humankind are informed by coordinated, comprehensive, and sustained Earth observations. So right now, GEO has over 100 different governments that participate in a non-binding best efforts way to open up access to Earth observations and their utilization. Next slide, please. The mission of GEO is to connect the demand for sound and timely environmental information with the supply of data and information about the Earth that's collected through observing systems and made available by the GEO community. So in so doing, GEO works to unlock the power of Earth observations by facilitating their accessibility and application to global decision-making within and across many different domains. So GEO has been in operation since 2005, and as may not be evident from what I just informed you about, GEO is interested in all kinds of Earth observations, not just remotely sensed, but also in situ, and marine, aircraft, and other observing platforms. So we're excited to see what you're doing with Earth observations in each of your projects. Back to you, Sam.
Thanks, Doug. Now let's get straight into the presentations, I think. First, we have Budiman Minasny from the University of Sydney presenting on Paddy Watch, mapping and monitoring of paddy fields. Over to you, Buddy. Oh, you're just on mute as well.
Thank you, Sam, and thanks for letting me speak about Paddy Watch, our project on mapping and monitoring paddy fields of the world. So as you know that rice is eaten by or as consumed as a primary food for more than half of the world's population. So it's important to know that where are the areas that rice are grown, not only that, like what stage is it grown and how can we forecast its yield. So next slide, please. So this project come across is from our colleagues in Indonesia, where they have a difficulty in getting accurate data of paddy rice area. As you see that Indonesia's staple food is rice, and it's quite an important national produce that to estimate how much rice is going to be produced. But getting the right data, as this article says, is just like finding a Pokemon, because it depends which department you ask. If it's the statistics departments, they have their own estimate, and if it's the agriculture department, they have their own estimate. So can we do better than that? Our Indonesian colleagues asked that. Next slide, please. So we look at the satellite data. Can we do something with the satellite data? So this is an image of a rice producing area in Indramayu in West Java. So if we look at the next slide. So if we look at the Sentinel-1 product, which is a radar product that is from the European Satellite Agency, we can immediately see that different parts of the area has different signature. In addition to that, next slide, please. If we look at how the backscatter reacts over time, we can actually see that they actually got a specific signature. Next slide, please. So because this is due to the way rice is grown. So in the planting season, the rice paddy field is being flooded, and then it's grown, and then during the vegetative season, then it starts to get drained, and during the harvest it gets drained as well, and then this is sort of a cycle, and then some farmers leave it to do secondary crops and so on, and then later when they want to put paddy fields again, they start to flood the paddy field again. And in this way, as you can see, the backscatter data over time, it's fluctuating up and down. This is because of the backscatter radar is detecting the moisture content of the soil. So because it has the ability, because the paddy field is a unique, that is a cycle process, and each area has its own cycle, then we can detect not just whether those area is growing rice, but what stages it is in growing rice. Next slide, please. So we can actually map that over a big area. So this is area in West Java, the central of the rice paddy field. we can actually now map not only which area is growing rice, but at which stage it is growing rice. Next slide, please. So because each of these signature over time series signatures of the backscatter polarization of the radar data actually tells us that they are unique signature, they are unique pattern of a different rice growing pattern. And by using a time series of the data, we classify the rice area into groups, and then we can, based on the expert knowledge, we can assign what does it mean for each group. Next slide, please. Just for example, this is in 2018, so we separate it out from the fallow, that is the brown, and then the blue is the tillage, and then the green is a vegetative, and then the yellow is maturity. So if we focus on, let's say, the green one, next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Let's keep going. July, next one. August, September, November, October, November, and December. As you can see that each month we are able to detect at which stage this rice is growing at, whether it is at during a tillage season, which is a vegetative season, is it maturing season, or is still under fallow. So by knowing that, then we can know exactly that which area is producing rice, and what we hope to the next stage is that if we know which area is under maturity or it's going to produce rice soon, then we can estimate as well, like how much yield we can get. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Please, as in a comparison with the estimated extent, this is from the local statistic compared with the local statistics in the area. We can get a very high correlation. Next slide, please. And also, if we validate it using points, using visual observation, we can accurately calculate that the overall accuracy is around 95%. Next slide, please. So we can apply this not just a small area, not just few hectares, but for example, in Malaysia, the one that I showed you before in Indonesia, that's about 200,000 hectares. It's a 10-meter resolution, and it got updated every month. And then we do the same thing in Malaysia. This is 140,000 hectares, 10-meter resolution every month. So once the model has been set up, then we just run it, and then it gets updated every month. So this is a very powerful tool that it's got 10-meter resolutions every month. You know which area is growing rice and at what stage they are growing rice. And we hope to extend this project further, that every month we can also know how much yield it can be expected. Next slide, please. So, and then we can use it for local management, and we can forecast yield as well. Next slide. So, and in district scale agriculture, we can use this information either for insurance, fertilizer subsidies, or farmers and credits and banking and so on. Next slide, please. So that's it. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I'm happy to answer them.
Woody, thank you. Very interesting topic. So in terms of questions, are there plans to apply this to other crop types as well, or is rice really the primary focus?
Yeah, as the name suggests, it's Paddy Watch, so it's only rice at the moment. Yeah.
Excellent. And you mentioned the potential or working towards yield prediction. Have you got any firm ideas on how you might approach that? Because it is a significantly challenging objective, of course.
Yes, I think yeah, the significant challenge is first in the tropical area. There's a cloud cover that's going to be challenging. That's why using the radar product it's a very good options, because it eliminates that limitations with the cloud. But we're looking at it, and there are some regions in Malaysia where we can get access to the rice yield data, and we have a collaboration, and we hope that using the NDVI, not the radar data, but the optical data, although it's not incomplete, maybe in some areas there's still clouds that we can hopefully extrapolate it.
Excellent, great. And one final question: how scalable or applicable will the model that you've developed or are developing? How scalable will that be to other regions in the world that are possibly further away than Southeast Asia? I'm thinking maybe India and Pakistan, China, etc.
I think the method is quite generic. I think the things that needs to be adjusted is that we need some expert knowledge to identify because different parts of the world grow rice differently. So we still need, at this stage, expert knowledge to tell us this pattern, what does it mean?
Yes. And how does, one final question, I'm conscious of the time, it's really interesting. How does the size of the paddies influence your ability to reliably detect them? Because I imagine they vary substantially in area.
Yes, I know that. I think because this is I think there's a question about Asia rice. We do have a conversation with them, and I think the advantage with Sentinel is the 10-meter resolution. So it is quite a fine resolution, and it still can detect reasonable size. Of course, it's not going to detect every single plot, but it's still within a region, within an area, we can definitely
create some good numbers. That's fantastic. Budi, thank you. We look forward to asking more questions of you later on in the panel discussion. But thank you. Our next presenter is Gayane Faye from the Applied Remote Sensing Laboratory at Cheikh Anta Diop University. I hope I've said that even close to correctly, Gayane. Presenting on Agriproductivity, use of geospatial data for agricultural monitoring in Senegal. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody. I would like, before starting my presentation, thank all of you, especially Geo and Google Earth Engine, to give us this opportunity to talk about our project. This project is use of geospatial data for agriculture monitoring in Senegal, called by Applied Remote Sensing Laboratory of Cheikh Anta Diop University, which I am the lead, and where we do research on using geospatial data for natural resources monitoring, disaster management, and environmental monitoring. And the other is Centre de Suivi Écologie, which primary mandate is in focusing on agro-pastoral ecosystems, management and monitoring. It has a long experience in managing environmental resources with remote sensing data and GIS technology for helping decision makers. Next slide, please. Our project aims to exploit free remote sensing data like Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, Landsat 8, for developing tools to crop monitoring in Senegal context. In Sahelian context, agriculture is the crop plot are so small and generally with mixed crop or some tree, so it is not easy to map the crop at the plot level. So our project aims to develop with cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and like that, a tool 4 services. The first one is determine optical sowing depth. The second one is mapping agriculture area for each crop type. The third one is monitoring crop during the growth season. And the fourth one is calculated crop yield at the end of the rainy season. Our consortium is composed by our laboratory, the CSE, and the National High School of Agriculture at Cheikh University, where the agriculture engineers are trained. The Senegalese Institute of Agriculture and Research, the Executive Secretariat of National Food and Security, and the rural development of 2 departments where we are working. Next slide, please. Our study area is located in the middle of Senegal, where agriculture is very developed and where we have many type of crop. And so the methodology is to use Sentinel-3, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, and Landsat-8 images combined with field data like soil data, sample data, because 3 years ago we had another project where we have possibility to collect many plot area, so we will use it in this project. And drone, we are planning to use drone for collecting data, and other data, field data like phenological data, which collected by the ISRA. ISRA is National Institute of Research and Agriculture. This methodology allows us to identify the optimal sowing depth from soil moisture. We will calculate it with Sentinel-1 data and climate data and soil data. The second service is crop mapping by type or at the plot scale. In order to estimate agriculture area statistic for each crop. In Senegal, the main problem is to have a good agriculture statistic to help decision maker or to help farmer. So this project will help us to develop something to improve statistical agriculture. The third one is crop monitoring during the growth season. So provide early warning for farmer and decision maker, and at the end of the dry season to calculate crop yield using Landsat data and Sentinel-2 data. Next slide, please. For this, we have 4 steps. The first one is stakeholder mapping. The objective is to identify all of stakeholders who has interest by this work. So we discuss for them to identify potential user and the role of each of them for this project. The second step is to service design the services, clarify the methodology, design all the activities, the tools and data that we will use in the detail, capacity building, or the need of capacity building of our team, because the team, we are researcher, we are some government agency and other one, so we need to know the need of capacity building. The third step is to prototyping, testing, and implementation of the services, the algorithms that will be help to have to produce the different services. And in this step, we will have to be ensure that activity are carried out and objectives are achieved. the last step is evaluating and knowledge sharing for farmer, for decision maker of the result of our project. Next slide, please. So the two first steps are done, and the second are ongoing now. And we are working in collaboration with Service West Africa, which has services and agriculture mapping area by crop through all the Senegal. So we in this project, CSE is the lead, and CSE are co-lead of our project. So we think that we thought that it's better to collaborate to work together in this project. The first one is already done. Donc, so for that data, for satellite data, we use not Sentinel-1 and other one. For field data, plot data collected by the Applied Remote Sensing Laboratory in the other project, and yield data for ISRA. And we will collect data with a drone to improve our methodology. Next slide, please. It is our agenda. Our agenda. The first step is already done. User engagement, consultation, need assessment, and stakeholder mapping. And the second one is ongoing: service design, field data creation, database creation. And so after, we'll continue the three next activity before the end of the project. Next, welcome. Next one, please. Okay, thank you. It is the last one. Thank you so much.
Danny, thank you. Very interesting. So, once you get to the end of the project, who are the main end users of the outputs? Is it decision makers, or is it farmers, or is it both? I'm interested to understand.
It's both of them. The first one is decision maker. In Senegal, we have the National Direction of Agriculture Statistics, who every year work to give for the government all statistics for agriculture. So in this work, the result of this work will help them to have a better methodology to improve their statistics, because our government use their statistical data to do their planification. So if you don't have the good statistical planification, will not be good. So the government of Senegal will be the first end user of our project, but we will in the same time help farmer to identify the sowing date, because sometimes it rains before the sowing date and they are confused. So our objective is, at the end of this project, to have a methodology to help them to identify the best date of sowing.
Excellent, great. And one quick question. This is kind of coming from Doug Cripe. Are you connected to the joint experiment for crop assessment and monitoring in Senegal?
No.
Great. Gayane, thank you. We look forward to asking some more questions and hearing more about your project in the panel discussion. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Our next presenter is Wegayehu Asfaw from the Arba Minch University in Ethiopia, presenting on urban agricultural intensity monitoring using Google Earth Engine. Over to you, Wegayehu.
Okay, thank you, Sam, for inviting me to this incredible virtual meeting. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all audience around the world. My name is Wegayehu Asfaw. I'm a hydrologist by background and much more interested in remote sensing and Earth observation applications. On this virtual meeting, I'm going to present our ongoing project on monitoring urban culture intensity with the help of Earth Engine platform. Our team is composed of some senior and junior staffs from different organizations, including Arba Minch University, International Water Management Institute, and that of ITC. Next slide, please. Okay. After saying this, let me start from motivation of our project. A recent study showed that urban culture nearly contributes around 33 billion USD per annual in the form of ecosystem service. When we connect this urban culture with that of even the Sustainable Development Goals, it have a tremendous interlinkage with many of the goals, but in particular with the second and that of the 11th, there is strong interaction which deals with eliminating hunger and that of ensuring sustainable cities. In the same manner, urban culture have its own contribution in eradicating poverty and also improving well-being of human life. Therefore, these issues were triggering us to start this project. Next slide, please. Okay. To deploy our project, we have selected one of the fastest growing cities in sub-Saharan Africa, Addis Ababa. Therefore, according to a UN report in 2018, population lives in the city exceeds half of world population since 2007 and expected to reach around 2/3 of world population by 2050, which is very quite an issue that deals many concerns. One of the concerns is that the area that is covered with new settlements. Therefore, new settlements are rapidly increasing, and this increment is mostly on the cost of or on the demand of periodically used by farming areas. This is a real concern. Therefore, fertile and arable areas are gradually declining due to urban expansion. That is an issue. Next slide, please. To illustrate this problem in a very clear manner, this graph, this figure shows that this is a picture taken by Sentinel-2 from eastern part of the city. We have 3 panels demarcated by red broken lines. The first shows older part of the city. The middle one shows new developments, and the last one is actually the current agricultural areas. As you have seen from the plots, the older part of the city, which is on the first panel, which is highly densely populated and very poorly planned because it's an older part of the city. There is a very lack of infrastructure. Therefore, a new interest and a new demand of further expansion. On the middle panel, as you have seen, there is a new highway built. Therefore, new developments which are intentional and also unintentional. When we say intentional, in the form of institutions, real estates, industry parks, were expanding to formerly farm land. And on the third panel, as you have seen, there is any propagation toward this the agricultural land. Therefore, as a result, some studies show that urban area is nearly increased by 83% per every decade, and in return, or in contrary, agricultural area is shrinking by around 42%, which is very significant. Next slide, please. Therefore, just very recently, we have therefore without an issue, monitoring, tracking, and quantifying these changes very demanded. Recently, we have produced this map, which is we effectively able to capture the urban area with classic machine learning. But for the case of urban croplands, it's very challenging. One is the issue is it's very fragmented in space. As you know, unlike monitoring a homogeneous type of crop or monitoring forest, monitoring urban culture is a bit challenging. One is its nature. It's very fragmented in space. It's highly diversified and dynamic in terms of cropping system and also watering system that is associated to either based on the season. It changes from irrigation type or irrigation practice into rain-fed and vice versa. That's another challenge. The other thing is around urban areas, there is very difficult. There is a difficulty of mixed pixel program because different land covers having similar spectral reflections is a very common issue. This is another problem, and lack of inventory data to adequately train and that of validate our model is some of challenges while we try to map urban agriculture. Next slide, please. But to encounter this issue, we would like to follow an approach of fusion by fusing an optical data with that of SAR data, synthetic hyperjournal data, from Sentinel, and apply some classical machine learning approaches. We are aiming at monitoring crop types, their seasonal pattern, and also the type of watering system. Is it irrigation or really rain-fed type? Therefore, our aim is mainly targeting between 2015 and 2020. We'll aim to collect training and validation data, and deep learning is even in consideration by further dealing with its architecture. Next slide, please. Therefore, this is the end slide. Therefore, our goal is to produce a detailed and relatively accurate map of urban intensity, which can be scalable to larger scales and also easily transferable workflow for other cities in similar. Our end product is expected to benefit researchers dealing with water balance, evapotranspiration like that, policymakers, urban planners in considering their future urban expansion, and also agricultural practitioners might be benefited from the outputs to calculate how they improve effectiveness and efficiency of land available right now. The last slide. Thank you very much. This from me.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation on a couple of fronts, and I really liked your cartography as well. There were some good-looking maps that told the story. So, thanks for sharing those. Is there how do you plan to deliver the outputs of your project, and who to, and what's your thinking around that?
Yeah, we are very glad for being part of this project. Through this project, we are able to how to present our outputs. Therefore, using application of as engine is very interesting part. Therefore, we are aiming to publish it on in the form of easily interactive, user-friendly type of application. We plan to build that one.
Yes, excellent. And in terms of the training data or the ground truthing data for your machine learning approaches, what What data I'm just wondering what shape that data collects and how much of it you need to collect, given that there's quite a diversity in what you see on the ground.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things that where we limit our period of monitoring this from the past 5 years, because this time is easily memorable by the farmers, and they can give us adequate information regarding the time series, what type of crop at which time, and what is even and this type of issues can be easily detected or collected from the farmers. Therefore, producing appropriate a platform for filling these questionnaires might be a crucial stage in the upcoming days, and then we'll go to the field and we'll put these issues into our paper.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing. And we look forward to hopefully asking you some questions in the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Mustapha Mimouni from the Sahara and Sahel Observatory, presenting on sustainable management of water for agriculture. Over to you, Mustapha.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for inviting us to such a really interesting meeting. My name is Mimouni Mustapha. I'm a remote sensing expert at Sahara and Sahel Observatory. I'll be presenting our project on sustainable management of water for agriculture. Next slide, please. Before we go to the project itself, I will try to describe in few words our organization. Who are we? We are the l'Observatoire du Sahara du Sahel. We are an international intergovernmental organization operating in Africa's Sahara and Sahel region. OSS was founded in 1992 and it's established in Tunis, Tunisia.
I think we've potentially lost Mustapha's internet.
Are you
hello? Back now?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. Yeah. So actually, we are international intergovernmental organization. We are operating in Africa's Sahara and Sahel region. We have been OSS was founded in 1992, and it's established in Tunis, the capital of Tunisia, since 2000. We're counting more than 27 countries since July, let's say, since last session. We have some non-Africa countries. Our mission is to support the African member countries in the sustainable management of their natural resources by integrating climate change dimension. It's based essentially on knowledge transfer, capacity building, and awareness raising. Next slide, please. Our Goal Earth project, we have been very glad to see that our proposal on sustainable water management for agriculture has been judged potential to deliver significant impact using Earth observations and data science with respect to improve decision making. What we want to do is to deliver operational services for agricultural water use and monitoring and assessment using Google Earth Engine. This idea has been, let's say, manifested through different end users' needs requests, and there's a strong need to get this information by decision makers as well as by technical managers in charge of agriculture and water reuse. Next slide, please. So, what is what is our project about? So we have a kind of let's say a huge amount of Earth observation data which is already available. But we have another context which is very we feel that there's no effective use of this Earth observation. So what we are facing water scarcity. We have drought. We have climate change. We have a lack of information on agricultural water consumption, since the national administration in charge of water resources monitoring, they don't know really, they don't have an updated information on the water use in timely manner. We have also an over abstractions and illegal water drilling. So people, they are not authorized to use groundwater resources, so they dig boreholes and they use this water, and which is this is making additional pressure on groundwater resources. We know that in our countries, agriculture is the major water consumer. We are counting from 70% in some countries to 90% in some other countries. We have also decision makers who need to be, let's say, to get some information timely and at the most updated manner and as the most updated correct information. And we have also kind of deriving information on water for crops use is very complex and requires advanced skills. So what we are doing, what we are trying to establish is an operational geoservices, making use of the Google Earth platform and taking into consideration the crops itself. It means we are going to map the crops, and then we are trying to estimate the water use for this crop. And to define the irrigation perimeters, and then we will have some water volumes. Next slide, please. So from what we have defined our project, we have let's say some national studies. We have some exchanges with the national partners in so many countries and with the end users. We have identified that there's a real need in terms of data. We have limited access to limitations in terms of accessing the Earth observation data or processing the Earth observation data. We have also some data sharing issues. We have many problems on in-situ data. It's not everywhere available. From the hardware, not all the end users have some let's say some capabilities to acquire and to store and process Earth observation data. We have also some destination issues because we have some service limitations, some internet bandwidth, etc. In terms of expertise, we have some skills required for extracting some kind of knowledge from Earth observation data, which is not everywhere available. We need to know how to transform this data from Earth observation into indicators, very easily accessible by the end users, by people who are not really experts in remote sensing. And we have to capitalize also the expertise that we have, since we are running since many years ago some projects on water monitoring and for agriculture monitoring. We have the GMS and Africa project, Global Monitoring for Environment and Security, where we are developing some operational services on that, on some pilot sites, and we want to upscale them on the Google Earth Engine platform. And we have some known needs in terms of information, and we know the real problems behind making available such data. So in general, we have a weak integration of Earth observation in sustainable agricultural water land management, and in the same time, we believe that there's a high added value of reliable potential source for strategic orientation in the decision making chain. Next slide, please. So what we are trying to establish is that in the first phase of the project, we are co-defining the services. We did so many trainings. We are really thankful to the EO data science to make that possible. Then we will design the technical design of the service with local stakeholders, since they have access to so many ground data, in-situ data, and we'll develop the first prototype. Then we'll transfer it to upscale the manner, and we'll ensure, of course, appropriation and capacity building. So part of the appropriation comes from the fact that all what we are doing is coming from expressed user needs in the area. I think I'm going beyond my time, so thank you so much. I think that is all. I'm really happy to answer to your questions.
Mustapha, thank you. Yeah. Very interesting and a very large project. So yeah, congratulations on keeping that all within your team's control. I'm interested to understand what Earth observation products, or what data sources are you using to kind of assess groundwater, or more to the point, the usage of groundwater. I'm interested in, I suppose, the technical approach.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really glad to get this question. So actually, what we are doing, so main of, let's say, the major consumer of water resources is agriculture. From agriculture, we can have some time series describing the crops and the phenologies, and we have also from the same time series regarding the rainfall. So we can identify which areas are irrigated and which areas are rainfed, since the response to rainfall can be, let's say, estimated. And then we are using mainly Sentinel-2 acquisitions, but we are open also to Sentinel-1 integration in this process. Once we will have the crop map, we will try to define the crop's water requirement from using the evapotranspiration as like FAO 56. But in the same time, we are also running the energy balance model to estimate the evapotranspiration. And then by exchanging with the end users, we will have some, let's say, geolocated in situ data. And we have some validation campaign, and we will have also some water volumes to calibrate our models and to estimate how far or how good is our result. And we believe that if end users are engaged, if they are satisfied with the results, they will make the let's say, we call it infrastructure, the plaidoyer. I think that it's they can, let's say, present the approach to other audiences that we don't have access, so they can get some kind of testimony to other levels.
Excellent. Great. Very interesting project. I look forward to asking some more questions of you soon, hopefully. So, Mustapha, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Adel Daoud from the University of Gothenburg and also Harvard University, presenting on Observatory of Poverty, monitoring progress towards sustainable development goals using artificial intelligence and satellite images. Over to you, Adel.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well? I think so. So my name is Adel Daoud. I'm an associate professor, Department of Sociology, University of Gothenburg, also by honorary position, data science and artificial intelligence at CSC, Chalmers University. Next slide, please. So the core team that we're working with to tackle this question of global poverty are people composed of computer scientists and economists and sociologists. Next slide, please. And the problem that we are tackling is that of global poverty, understanding the causes and consequences of it. However, before we can understand that question more properly, we need deeper and more refined data over time and space. So this graph shows you the number of people living in extreme poverty over time since the last 200 years. And we can see that although the numbers are decreasing, we are approximately the same level in absolute numbers in terms of the number of people that live in extreme poverty compared to 200 years back in time. Next slide, please. So using the some of the sort of the categorizations that are available in global poverty, we can roughly divide the living standards or the global living conditions in 4 tiers, where you can see the fourth one being the one to the far right, and to the far left we have level 1, and basically it breaks down the living conditions by type of accessing water, transportation, cooking, eating, and sleeping. And so what we are doing in this project is to try to differentiate level 1 from the rest, capturing that group of people. Next slide, please. However, today in global poverty research, we rely mostly on household data, so surveys that are done, but they are not done that many often. It's not high frequency data as we need to really deep dive into the causes and consequences of poverty. So here, for example, you have the number of consumption or income surveys versus asset surveys, and we have, at maximum over a period of 10 years. For example, in Central Africa or Egypt, 4 surveys during this period. But most of the times it's very scarce. So we can't really see what's going on within these countries. Next slide, please. So what our project is doing here is to combine survey data to train algorithms to create a new data set, impute data on poverty throughout time and space, going back as far as 1984 to 2020, using mostly the Landsat missions. So more specifically Landsat 4 to 8. Next slide, please. So the key intuition behind what we're doing is that this is the country of Burundi, 2018. This year, we don't have any surveys for this country to the left, but to the right, the goal is to impute that data using this F, meaning a function. So we give it a set of images for each location, and the idea is that the algorithm then guesses what the poverty level should be at that level. So next slide, please. So really what we're trying to do here is that we are building this data set, and now Burundi is just one country to illustrate what we're trying to do. We'll be doing this for the entire continent of Africa. So the first row with our project is that we will be creating these maps sequentially put on top of each other to highlight the trajectories of poverty throughout time and space. And really without our project, for example, again, for the country of Burundi, if you look at 2010 and 17, those are the only time points where we do have surveys. So those are the periods where we know a bit more about what's going on in Burundi. But for the rest of the period, we lack any information of internationally comparable scale. There are censuses and other types of surveys, but you can't really compare them with the rest of Africa or even globally. Next slide, please. So what we do then is that we impute this data so we can use it for to identify which regions, villages, cities in the continent of Africa are trapped in poverty, meaning basically that there's no development or worsening development over time, so that policymakers can target those specific communities better. That's the policy goal, and the scientific goal is to understand why they're trapped in poverty. Next slide, please. So again, slide after that. So the preliminary results that we have done now throughout 2020 is that we have gone through the Google Earth Engine facilities, written some code that helps us loop through each country and each year to see basically, how well of a pixel quality do we have throughout time and space. So these are 2 selected countries. We've done this for the entire continent, showing Ethiopia and Cameroon, where Ethiopia is one of the best case scenarios, and Cameroon being one of the countries that is worst case scenario, basically that they lack some data. But what you can see here is that despite that Cameroon lacks data, specifically throughout the 90s, so black here means basically there's no image data in GEE and Google Earth Engine. Red means that there are images, but they are either cloudy or there are shadows from clouds, so they might not be as usable as we hope for. Whereas green means best RGB resolution. So next slide, please. So if you aggregate all these pixels throughout all these countries, we can see that especially after 2000, it's nearly perfect proportion of usable pixels that we can train our algorithms on. Before that, we average about 75% data availability or pixel availability. So in conclusion, there is really good data to do some work. It will be near perfect moving on from 2000 and forward. Next slide, please. And on the algorithmic side, we have been experimenting with some of the, how well can an algorithm basically be trained on these pixels to predict different poverty dimensions. So what you see on the rows here, house quality, number of household members, and so on and so forth, basically characteristics or dimensions of poverty, and the columns represent different algorithms that we fitted or trained, and the average just basically means the average of all algorithms. And we see that actually in this example, I mean, a more complex model, ResNet 50, doesn't outperform a lesser complex model, ResNet 18. So that's the runner, basically the best, and then they have the runner-ups pretty close to some of the housing-related dimensions score pretty high for understandable reasons, because that the algorithm, whatever is observable from the sky, from images, tend to score pretty well in terms of how well poverty is developing over time. Whereas poverty dimensions within a household, or so not observable directly. For example, has water is one of the water source is one of the hardest for the algorithm to predict. It's not unusable. It's still an R square beyond 0.25-ish, which is provides sufficient information, we would say, in the social sciences to understand what's going on within countries. But of course, we want to predict as well as possible. And these are still cross-sectional results, so we haven't really tried these out over time. So we have a lot of optimization to do to try different algorithms and really scale up the model. I mean, one of the since we have Noel on the line here, is that, if there's anything we want the Google Earth Engine to do better, is to access more of those great images on the facility easier, without these sort of known bugs of failing to download images. So that's my call for that. Last slide, I think it's next slide. Well, yeah, that's the last slide. So we want to thank the team on Earth and GEO and Google for this initiative, but also, of course, thank our colleagues, their objects in space. Specifically, Landsat 7 and 8 have been great, and 1 and 3 hasn't contributed enough to this work, so they are left out. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, Landsat 1 and 3 often do get left out for that exact reason. But they were very novel at the time. Okay. Now, I find your project, absolutely fascinating, Adel, because I never would have thought some of the metrics that you are predicting using Earth observation data possibly could be predicted. And I'll admit I'm a kind of a plant person. I don't have much feel for the social science. But I'm really interested. So, like some of the variables, like, number of rooms in a house. But how does that scale with the number of household members? Like if it was a 2-bedroom house with 10 people in it, suggests one thing about poverty versus a 5-bedroom house with 2 people in it. Interested to, I suppose, unpack that a little bit, if you could.
Right. No, it's an excellent question. I mean, a lot of these results that we're getting, it's basically, as I call it, tea leaf reading. I mean, you get a prediction and you sort of look at the results and you try to guess what's happening. But our preliminary analyses and understanding of the topic as a social scientist, but also as a computer scientist, is that a big house often, if you have 2 individuals living in a relatively large house, that house often looks quite different from a house that would be, even with the same size with more people. So we're guessing that that's actually what the algorithm is picking up, and that's what we see. But the issue is really when you start doing these predictions across cultures, across time, and how well can you balance the how well can you train the algorithm so that it really tunes into those things. So you're addressing, your question addressed that one of the key issues that we're trying to tackle.
Yeah, excellent. We've got a question from one of the attendees. Thank you, Joaquin. Adel, have you submitted a paper on this topic, or have you got publications on this topic? I think people are interested to.
Right. So my team is pretty new to this, and really what the great team that we have been, and I've been gathering a lot of the inspirations from the team at Stanford, actually, that they have in 2016, I would say that the pioneering paper that they published in Science, it's called Combining Machine Learning and Satellite Imagery to Predict Poverty. It's a great paper, and the team there is very novel in the way that they combine their knowledge. What we're doing is that we're really sort of building on that and expanding it to the social sciences, expanding through time, and capturing more of the outcomes. The team there has a particular focus on the computer science application than the earth science application. So those are the publications. But in terms of our output, we have a set of working papers coming out next year, so I'm more than happy to share those through GEE and GEO.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Adel. Look forward to putting some more questions to you in the panel discussion.
Thank you.
Our final presenter is Elio Atenógenes Villaseñor Garcia from the National Institute of Statistics and Geography of Mexico, presenting on large-scale, high-resolution detection of vulnerable settlements. Over to you, Elio.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for the organization of this meeting. I think I'm the last presenter, and I'm very, very happy to see that the progress of all the projects. Well, this project is a collaboration between academic and state institutions. The National Institute of Statistics and Geography, INEGI, leads the project and provides high quality and ground-truth data. National Polytechnic Institute, IPN, contributes with the researchers and graduate students led by Dr. Joaquin Salas. Their work has been crucial to take advantage of Google Earth Engine and the development of analytical tools. Also, the team has received the advice of Dr. Roberto Manducci from the University of California in Santa Cruz, that has expert in computer vision and machine learning, and Dr. Maria Elena Mesa from the Autonomous University of Querétaro has provided advice related to the correct interpretation of vulnerable settlements. Information. Secretariat del Bienestar, Secretary of Well-being, is the entity responsible for implementing the federal government's social public policy. This entity gives us the point of view of the final user through Dr. Gilberto Herrera. Also give us insight from the field work they do in vulnerable settlements. Within this team, our vision is to develop useful data products for decision makers to support public policy. Next slide, please. In this slide, we show a portion of the mapping of slum severity index that was calculated over 2 million residential blocks for urban locations using data from the National Census 2010. Given that the national census occurs every 10 years, the use of remote sensing techniques could be very useful given the need to have timely measurements to track progress in the Sustainable Development Goals for the upcoming years and evaluate poverty mitigation policies. Next slide, please. These pictures are from a rural settlement with plenty of natural resources, but deplorable living condition for its inhabitants. For example, near of the location, a dam provides water to millions of people, but the people there have no water in their houses. The pictures are part of the fieldwork made by our colleagues from the Secretary of Well-being and show us the problem we face in measuring vulnerability from many different contexts. Next slide, please. Originally, the SSI index is calculated from a principal component analysis of matrix constructed using indicators for sufficient living space, access to sanitation, structural quality and durability, and access to safe water. From these indicators, the only one that can be observed from satellite image is the one refers to structural quality and durability of the living houses material. So we hypothesize that the settlements without these essential services describe global patterns that may be identified using satellite image by machine learning techniques. Next slide, please. The remote sensing problems that we confront during this first stage of the project were differentiate urban settlements from rural ones and estimate SSI for urban settlements. To carry out the remote sensing and machine learning experiments, we followed this methodology. The first step was to look at the socio-demographic data for statistical irregularities that could be the poor performance of the machine learning algorithms. The second step was to deploy an experimental setup that allows us to take advantage of GEE resources and our infrastructure. We make annual composites in GE platform and download patches to use them for training convolutional neural networks using TensorFlow. Constructed a training data set with more than 600,000 patches from Landsat image captured in 2010 and labeled with sociodemographic indicators. Next slide, please. Once we download the image patches, we prove distinct architectures and learning rules, training convolutional neural networks, and evaluating them. Next slide, please. We also experiment with distinct strategies for the selection of the training data sets. For example, in urban-rural problems, we only consider rural locations far away, at least 2 kilometers from urban ones. Next slide, please. In classifying urban and rural regions, we have reached performance above 97% in accuracy. Next slide. In classifying urban and rural regions, we have reached performance, in the case of estimation, the SSI index, our performance is close to 80% in accuracy. Next slide, please. We also developed a GEE app that allows us to share our estimations with policymakers and the general public. Next slide, please. Okay, the next step the first one is experiment with other neural networks architectures and machine learning algorithms. One research question that has emerged is why we are getting better results with simpler neural networks models. The second one is work with others Landsat composite like GeoMedian. Actually, INEGI has published a collection of 30 annual Landsat GeoMedian composites of the national territory. The GeoMedian composite method is not available in the GE platform. We want to compare the results we get from GeoMedian composite methods from those we get from GE composite methods. The other next step is to incorporate new features to the image representation. We're planning to incorporate new variables like other socioeconomic variables or information from nightlight image. We also want to incorporate higher resolution image like Sentinel and construct new training data set and validate the results with the new field data from the census 2020. The results of this census are going to be published next month. And we also we also want to construct new training data sets for the Sentinel image with this new ground truth data. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Very interesting work, very interesting. And again, I'm quite surprised about the ability of machine learning using imagery to really understand kind of social aspects on ground. So I might jump straight into a reasonably technical question. I was wondering, with the image patch sizes for the machine learning model, how did you decide on those patch sizes, and did you need to experiment with different sizes, or does it vary depending on, I suppose, the structure of what's on ground?
Yes, in this first stage, we only experiment with one size. It was 60 times 60 pixels size, and we have the coordinate of each urban block, and we center the patch in the centroid of each block, and that's how we construct the patch. Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Great. Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to, I suppose, invite all the other panelists or presenters to join us again to form the panel, and yeah, encourage any attendees to please put questions in the comments box if you would like me to ask them at the panel, which we don't have right now. So actually, no, I do. There was a question which when I missed during Wegayehu's presentation, and that was from Joaquin Salas, who I believe is in Elio's team. So Wegayehu, do you distinguish between settlements and crops, or do the kind of the pixels you analyse, have larger image patches to separate them? I hope I've interpreted the question properly. Sorry, you're just on mute.
I will be careful. Sorry for that. I don't get your question, please.
Cool. I'll try again. I'm interpreting from one in the comments box. Do you distinguish between the settlements and the crops? Is that the main objective of your work, or more so to understand where the crops are within the urban areas?
Oh no, not just only targeting the urban area. Our project is mainly aimed at there is a very significant land transformation from urban area into that of from agricultural area into that of urban area. Therefore, we would like to quantify, track those changes in terms of over the past 5 years. Therefore, where, when, which type of crop is changing, and how the decline is exhibiting right now. That is our major aim.
Thank you. Great. I'd like to ask I suppose, a general question of a few of you here. If you could change one thing about Google Earth Engine, what would it be? Mustafa, I might start with you.
If I could change something?
Yes. If you could just give Noel an instruction right now and the whole team would drop everything and work on it, what would it be?
It should be more workflows very defined to some use cases that they can use that directly, because otherwise, if for my user perspective or for my own project, if we count on how many publications or how many use cases are made on monitoring irrigation, there are some very few. So sometimes the workflows, they are very generic, that they cannot go to the deep, but otherwise also it's a usual, if we tailor it very well to a specific end use, very specific user, we will miss the others. So I think that it couldn't be more than that. Maybe more tutorials on very developed use case, maybe, but otherwise, to be honest, there's no additional things.
Budi, I'd like to ask you that question. If you could change something about Earth Engine, what would it be?
I think Elio first, maybe.
Yes. Thank you. I would love to have TensorFlow directly, to apply TensorFlow in the Google Earth Engine, inside Google Earth Engine. That will be great. Yes.
Further integration of the TensorFlow process.
I think that's similar to what we because it's currently it's separate, so it's quite difficult, and then there's so many so if there's a better integration between the machine learning with the TensorFlow and the
that's certainly been a fairly general experience in that there's quite a curve to climb to integrate TensorFlow. Adel?
Yeah, right. Adding to my question to Noel during my presentation it's really I think adding to also that. I mean, one way would be to train within the models. For me, as a social scientist or computer social scientist, is that I like to have control in my own within my own facilities on my own workstation. So downloading images at scale would be great if there's a way of circumventing those bugs that currently seem to be present in Google Earth Engine would be one way of improving it. But other than that, it's a great facility in terms of I've never seen a data source coming from a social science background that has that massive amount of data located in one location. So that's a huge benefit for the scientific and policy community. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. I think we're pushing close to 40 petabytes of data within the public data catalog, which at the moment, which is that's a lot of bytes. Okay, excellent. Gayane, I'd like to ask you a question.
Okay.
What's the main challenge or barrier which you are trying to overcome to achieve your project objectives? What's in the way that you need to get past?
The main challenge of our project?
Yeah, or if there's any technical blockers, or I'm interested to understand. What are those main challenges?
The main challenge of our project is that I thought that when I was presenting, in our context, the crop plots are very small, like 1 hectare, and sometimes you have mixed crop or many trees on one plot crop. So when we're using Sentinel-1 or Sentinel-2 or Landsat with resolution of 10 meters, it is not easy to differentiate different crops. So our main challenge is that to have a tool which permit us to have the plot, the mapping area on the plot scale. It is not very easy in our context. So the most challenge is that. The second one is that in Senegal, the National Direction of Statistical Agriculture, who has mission to product this data, there are not many technical persons there. So the challenge is that if we have, at the end of the project, if we have a methodology to share knowledge with them, to training them to have possibility to use these tools. I think this is the two main challenge of our project.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for sharing. That's very informative. We have one question from an attendee, which is a general question, but hopefully someone can interpret this for me. A general question: can we consider Google Earth Engine apps, as in the user interface, as a processing tool? So part of a spatial data infrastructure? I'm not sure I understand the question. Anyone else? No?
Sure. I don't see why you couldn't. It's just a tool like any other tool. So if a web-based application fits the needs for your spatial data infrastructure, then go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, I'd like to, I suppose, throw the question asking open to the floor. If any of you guys would like to ask a question of somebody else or a general question, happy to hear it. Adel?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to see all these projects and also how, I mean, from my perspective as a poverty researcher, how they relate to each other in a very important way. A question to Elio, which is that, in terms of your project, you're trying to capture vulnerable settlements. How are you also trying to capture the time aspect here? And how do you do that? And what's the challenges in Mexico particularly? I mean, we're dealing with this in Africa. We're trying to capture poverty, but we also find harmonized data across these countries. So in Mexico particularly, could you walk us through a little bit about that? The time challenges that you're trying to tackle.
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, we want to have a measure of the expand of the extent of vulnerability settlements each year from now to 2030 using Sentinel's satellite. We can do this from now to the past using Landsat with the data and the model we have trained and we hope this with Sentinel image we get better results. The thing is that we have grown through data only for 2010 for the census, national census that was, and we will have new grown through data for this census that just happened this year. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm interested to find out what are some of the challenges that the various teams face, and appreciating that we represent a fair amount of the globe here, so that the challenges are going to be different, and I think that's informative. So what challenges do you face when communicating your research to stakeholders such as policymakers or farmers, urban planners? And do you have any advice to anybody listening on how to do that? I think, Gayane, you gave us some good insights previously on that exact topic. Thank you. So I might start, Mustapha, what challenges do you face in communicating the outputs of your work?
So for decision maker, if you ask him to conduct any let's say processing or product information on the cloud, it will be very challenging. So what we are trying to use, as Adel said, we are trying to use some very samples which are downloaded on hard disk, and to try to let's say to run the experiment and use the products and validate it with the end users in the framework of other projects. So this is how we convince them that the first product is reliable, and then you can upscale it to the cloud. Otherwise, it will be very convincing. And second thing is that we try to also to use to capitalize the existing. We have already some channel to discuss with the end users, to discuss with decision makers. So don't make let's say machine learning and all the complex stuff complicated. Just try to use their own language, very simplified. We are using the correlation, for example, or resemblance between rainfall and crop growth, and if it's something else, so it means there is some more additional water has been used for that. So simpler you go, faster you go, and I think that longer you go.
Excellent. Right, that's really informative. Budi, I'd like to ask you that question in terms of communicating the results of your work to your stakeholders. What challenges do you face, and do you have any advice around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I think they do really want the high resolution data. But I think the difficulty, I think it's that they still can't see that how like live data can be, because most of them are still traditionally based that it has to be based on a survey, it has to be reliability. I think to communicate because this is a different mindset, different procedure. I think that is still is a challenge.
Yes. I've recently seen the exact same challenges with crop forecasters in Australia, so I think it's potentially universal with crop forecasters. Fantastic. We've got about 1 minute remaining. Do we have any more comments? Gayane, was that you wanted to say something? No? I saw your hand move. I thought you were waving.
Maybe I can add is that I think like for at least for our work, I think because it involves heavy computing for a large area, I think we frequently got into problem of memory not enough memory. I think there's some way that we can work together to solve that.
Yep. Yeah, it is challenging, that one. Adel?
Yeah, a question to Noel, since we have him here. So I would like to invite you to sort of reveal what plans there are for GEE in the future. How are you planning to develop it in the coming years? I mean, any grand plans, minor plans would be just nice to hear where the platform is developing and moving.
The main thing is that we use the platform the same way you do. So in addition to the 7 or 8 engineers that work on the back end, we've got a team of 5 that have my job that are trying to use the platform to solve problems exactly the same way you are. So we definitely feel your pain in terms of exporting and time, internal server errors, and all the problems you have, we have as well. So the majority of our work is around just making our own lives better, because it's going to make your lives better too, because we're all doing the same thing. So stability, reliability, and then ease of use. All the things that you have to do 57 steps to do, there might be a simpler answer, but often it's really just 57 steps. So I'm always looking for opportunities to try to cut them down. One of you mentioned geometric median. That's a thing that's come up several times, and I'm actually sitting here reading about it right now to see if that's something we can easily apply or not. So we're always looking for things that'll make life easier. It's not uncommon that we'll miss a whole group of people. Most of the things that were said today I'm familiar with, but there are people doing water quality or things like that that we might not be familiar with, where they have a whole set of problems that we just are unaware of. So it's always good to make us aware of the problems you're having, like on the users list, to say, I'm having this problem, or this computation is particularly difficult, is there a better way? Because then we learn about what the problems are, and then we've got opportunities to act on them.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And more machine learning.
Yeah, more machine learning. It's the way of the future. Thank you, everybody, for this really interesting conversation, great presentations. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. But that's all the time we have for today. So on behalf of everybody who's attended and watched this presentation, and who may have a look at it on YouTube later, thank you. It's been great. So the recording of this meetup will be made public on YouTube soon. So look out for the link in your inbox, and also on social media. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues or other people who you think might find value in it. And finally, to all the attendees, to everybody watching this on YouTube, thank you, and goodbye.